Welcome folks, I'm out here in the workshop. It is terrible weather, it's raining like hell, and I thought it'd be a good day to solder up some new XLR cables. So I've recently bought these, which are XLRs with some coloured jackets on them, because a lot of my cables go behind studio furniture and behind amps, and so I'm making these up especially for use on the guitar amp. So I've got 4 of these, or 8, but 4 pairs of these to go on the mics that go on my guitar cabs. So if you've never soldered up your own cables before, it is a good skill to have, and it's a very cost-effective way of doing things. You can buy cable in bulk, buy plugs in bulk, and you can save a lot of money. So to solder up some cables, we're going to need some solder, and just for our American friends, I can confirm it does have an L in it. It's not solder, it's solder. We're going to need that. We're going to need our soldering iron. This is a really nice one. It's an old BT one that my granddad left me. We're going to need some wire cutters and some wire strippers. And it also helps if you have some sort of vise or grabby device. And there's my soldering kit that's got 100 other things in it, but that's all we're going to need. Depending on the type of plug as well, you may need a little set of screwdrivers. These ones don't require it, but some XLR plugs have a couple of little screws in that you'll need to take out to get into them. So the first thing that we're going to do is to cut our cable to length. Now I've already cut mine to length. There are 4 cables here and they're all the same length. And then I'm going to take my wire strippers and I'm going to strip down the ends, leaving about 1 inch of exposed cable. Just trim off the outer plastic jacket using your wire strippers. So as you can see, we're now left with an exposed cable on the end, and we have a copper or sometimes steel, but it's usually copper, sheath that goes around the outside, and we need to peel that away and twist all that together. And then we have a red and a white cable thinner inside that sheath. Sometimes these are different colours. You might see yellow, blue, black, green, but it will be, for XLR cable, it will be a sheath and 2 contacts, and we need to strip the ends of those. Okay, and we need to do that for all the other cables as well. So that's the cables all stripped. So it's time to get out our XLR plugs. So this type has 4 parts. You have the boot, the coloured boot, an inner sheath, the outer construction, and the actual plugs. And that's the bit we're going to solder to. Now, one of the most important things to remember is when you're soldering, you have to put the boot on to the cable before you solder. And I forget to do this every single time. So I'm going to do them all now. Okay, so that is all the boots on the cables, and I'm just going to leave them up there. Now to get ready to solder, I'm going to take my fresh solder out the tube, and I'm just going to touch it with the soldering iron to the pins in the socket. If you're reusing an XLR socket, there will of course be solder on it previously. It's a good idea to do this again and clear out some of the old solder. If you've got a solder sucker, which I actually haven't got to hand, you can get rid of it. But it's a good idea to just tin with fresh solder, even if there is some existing on the socket before. Next, I'm going to tin the actual cable. So I set my solder down, and I'm just going to touch some solder and the cable together, so that helps the contact form there. Now with the sheath, the one that we twisted together, I'm actually going to fold that in half to create a slightly thicker cable and solder down the length of that. Okay, and that's now ready to solder onto our XLR. Now there's different pins in here. You've got pin 1, 2 and 3. Pin 1 is always the earth, and that's the sheath. Okay, and the pins are labelled in here, which you probably can't see on the video, but pin 1 is here, pin 2 is here, and pin 3 is here. So that's going to be the earth, the sheath. Pin 2 is going to be red, and pin 3 is going to be white. Now, there are conventions for doing this, but if you're just making a straight end-to-end XLR, as long as you've got the same combination at the other end, it should be fine. So I'm going to solder pin 1, and then pin 2, and then pin 3. If they're hard to reach, you can use a little pair of pliers. Okay, once that is soldered on, we take our jacket from inside and it slips over the cable like that. We plop the cable in there and there's little grooves down the side that hold it. We take our end piece and we slide it over, and there are grooves in there to help locate it, so the end should look like that. And then we grab our jacket that now hopefully we haven't forgotten to put on down the cable, and we slide it down and you just screw it in. And that's it. Now I've just got the other 7 to do. So there we go, 4 XLRs, all soldered up. And the last thing to do is to test them, and you can do that by literally running a mic through them into your mixing desk or preamp, or using a cable tester. So I'm going to take them back into the studio, run them through the cable tester, and hopefully all is good. Okay, so to test it, we simply turn our cable tester on, we plug in both sockets, and we hit the reset button, and we should get a line all the way across here of lights, pin 1 to pin 1, pin 2 to pin 2, pin 3 to pin 3. The only time we wouldn't want to see that is if we deliberately made a polarity reversing cable where we'd see pin 3 to pin 2 and vice versa there. So that one's all fine. So there we go, really short little demo of how to solder up some cables. If you've got any questions, please get in touch. Other than that, have a great day.